3 questions to ask about every audience that you speak to. Now, when you speak, you should be thinking, how can I add value to these people? How can I make them remember what I'm going to talk about? And how can I change their lives for the better? If that's not your goal when you speak, then perhaps you need to change your approach on why you're speaking in the first place. So remember these 3 questions when you speak to an audience. The first thing you need to ask is, can I relate? How do you relate to your audience? Ask yourself this. When you tell your story, ask yourself, is there something in the circumstances of my story, in the problem of my story, in the characters that I speak about that's similar to the audience member that I'm speaking to? Is there a similar circumstance that your audience has gone through that you've gone through? Is there a character or person in your story that's similar in nature to your audience? Something in your story that's similar to what your audience has experienced or gone through will make them relate to you more and therefore peek up and listen to your message. The second question to ask is, can I reflect? You want your audience to reflect on their lives while you're talking about your own story. And the way to do this is by using the feed, feel, and fuel method for storytelling. And the way you do that is, first you feed. Feed your audience with a question. Ask them something that relates to your story but gets them to reflect on their own lives. Have you ever met someone like this? Have you ever heard of this situation? Do you know anyone like this? Questions like that that feed into their mind and gets them to think and reflect on their own lives. Secondly, feel the response. Look for head nods or hmms in your audience. Look for people that maybe are just silent. Sometimes you'll ask a question and the whole room will be as if you could hear a pin drop. And that sometimes means you know your audience is thinking. And finally, fuel. Fuel them with your story. As you go into that, you will be telling your story and they will reflect on their own lives, and that will create a connection. Finally, can I remember? Do you want to be remembered as a speaker? Do you want to be remembered not just when people stand up and give you your standing ovation, but when people leave your presence? Do you want people to remember your message days, weeks, and months later? If you do, then use what I call the why and the way method. So you want to start by telling them why they should listen to your message and why it can be hazardous not to listen to your message. Sometimes you have to give people both the positive and the negative reinforcement to make them really listen. This is why you should do it, and this is what happens when you don't do it. And it may sound a little harsh, but sometimes we need to hear the negative in order to act. The next part of the equation is what many speakers forget. It's the way. Sometimes people need to hear just a tangible step that they can take. One next step that they can actually do as they leave your presence so that your message will stick and be reinforced in their lives. Sometimes these abstract concepts are not enough. You have to give someone the way to implement it. Break it down to easy steps. I think it was the movie Philadelphia where Denzel Washington said, "Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old." Sometimes we have to do that as speakers so that the person knows, okay, this is your message and this is the exact next step you should take as you leave here. You do that and you'll be well ahead of most speakers. So remember those three questions. Can I relate? Can I reflect? And can I remember? If you answer those for your audience, they will remember you long after many other speakers have left the stage. Until next time, keep speaking, sharing, and serving.